Hey guys, One Punch HD here today to do a episode review for One Piece episode 727 titled A Massive Counterattack, DoFlamingo's Awakening. I'm here with Moomin HD, who is an anime-only watcher for One Piece, and we're going to get his opinion on what happened in this episode and what's been going on recently with Luffy's Gear 4th, DoFlamingo's Awakening, and everything else that is happening in the climax of Dressrosa. So, Moomin, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I thought it was pretty awesome. Not quite as epic as when Gear 4th was revealed. But I gotta say, I have a theory. I don't think Luffy should be this strong. I mean, if you think back and look back at a few episodes ago, and of course the whole 2-year gap. I mean, he fights like a giant monkey and a gorilla and an alligator or something, and all of a sudden, like, he can have Gear 4th. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, does it make sense to you?
I actually do think that it makes sense for Luffy to be this strong, because we went through the time skip, and he didn't have any haki before the time skip, other than accidental Conqueror's haki. And he spent the years training, and now he has incorporated both his observation and his armament haki with his devil fruit ability, and this has allowed him to develop Gear 4th that we see in these episodes.
Yeah, but take Zoro, for example. I mean, Zoro spent the 2 years training with the world's greatest swordsman. Like, that makes sense. Luffy spent 2 years training with, like, some animals in a jungle. Zoro trained with the world's best, like, fighting him every day, presumably. Where Luffy didn't. And how can you get better if you never have to up your game until, like, you're actually fighting DoFlamingo? It just doesn't seem to add up.
When he was on that island, he was actually with Rayleigh for the first 18 months, and Rayleigh was training him on how to use haki. So in the 2-year time skip that he was away from the crew, he was actually only on his own for the last 6 months of that time period. Rayleigh, of course, was the vice captain of Roger's ship, who was the original and, as far as we know, only Pirate King. And we also saw Rayleigh going head-to-head with Kizaru on Shibundi Archipelago back before the time skip. So we know that he is definitely at least at Admiral level, if not above. And he was basically the Zoro to Roger, who, as far as we know, is the strongest pirate that ever lived. It is true that Zoro was training with Mihawk, and that Mihawk is ridiculously strong, but Luffy was training with Rayleigh, and Rayleigh is probably a lot stronger than Mihawk, so Luffy did have a good tutor to get the fundamentals of haki that he has used to develop Gear 4th down.
Yeah, I can see that. But I guess what I'm saying is that what the episodes show us in terms of Luffy's training is a lot more extensive than Zoro's. So you're left to your imagination to fill in what Zoro went through. But with Luffy, they focus on him fighting some animals and then sitting around a campfire while his tutor gives him some food to eat, and it doesn't seem to add up.
That's true. I mean, the Oda has definitely been very mysterious in revealing what the crew actually went through and accomplished during the time skip to get their powers, but since we've came back from the time skip, we've basically seen Luffy foderize everybody that he's fought against. He fodderized Hody Jones on Fishman Island, and then he destroyed Caesar Clown, except for the one time that Caesar stole his heir on Punk Hazard. So DoFlamingo really is the first legitimate enemy that he's fought post-time skip. So DoFlamingo is the first enemy that's actually forced him to reveal his trump card, which is Gear 4th. And even though he's pushing DoFlamingo, we see that before, when he was using Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, he was hitting DoFlamingo, but he wasn't actually injuring DoFlamingo. DoFlamingo even said, when he hit him with Gear 2nd, he said, "Your punches are so light, they don't have any impact." And then when he tried to hit him with Gear 3rd, DoFlamingo was so fast that he easily dodged it and he couldn't hit him. So Gear 4th gave him the ability to have both the speed and the power to deliver a blow on DoFlamingo that actually gave him some damage and injured him. But even still, DoFlamingo was still able to get up, say that, Luffy's clearly pretty novice in using these new abilities. He looks like he's getting tired pretty quickly. And then DoFlamingo unleashed his awakening, which I think is actually the most interesting thing that happened in this episode that I'd like to get your opinion on. And that shows that basically Gear Fourth allowed Luffy to push DoFlamingo where DoFlamingo actually had to start trying. But it wasn't like Luffy went Gear Fourth and then beat DoFlamingo with one punch.
Yeah, of course not. And I think it's great. Like, I think the awakening aspect of Devil Fruit Eaters is foreshadowing a Gear Fifth, and who knows when that will come. But obviously, at some point, Luffy is going to have his own awakening of his Devil Fruit, and will ratchet up his own powers yet again. And in, typical fashion with the way the story's been unfolding, he's going to have a challenging fight with Doflamingo. Doflamingo is a formidable enemy, and if it ended in 2 chapters or 3 chapters, that just wouldn't fit with everything. So of course it's going to be an epic battle, and I'm looking forward to it.
This episode in the anime basically mirrored a chapter that came out about 8 months ago, which revealed Doflamingo's awakening and allowed him to, for the first time, discuss it. That was a pretty shocking moment for a lot of the One Piece fandom, because it was the first time that we were revealed the concept of Devil Fruit Awakening, which is kind of like the next level of fully unlocking your Devil Fruit ability. And at that time, a lot of people were thinking, okay, well, we have heard about this once before. We heard about this with the awakened Zoans in Impel Down, who were the big Minotaur-looking guys that were running around chasing Luffy and Buggy through the prison. And we didn't know at that point that awakened Zoans were actually awakened Devil Fruit users. We kind of thought that they were just a different type of Zoan, how there's ancient Zoan, mythical Zoan, carnivorous Zoan. We thought that awakened Zoan was just some other kind of Zoan thing. But with Doflamingo being a Paramecia, he revealed that the awakening actually applies to at least Paramecia users and probably also Logia users. And for a Paramecia user like himself, which Luffy also is, this allows him to basically control his environment and turn the whole city into strings. So he's not just limited from things that he can create from his body or turning his body into strings. He actually can turn buildings and the street into strings. It's probably one of the things that allows him to repair his internal organs from the gamma knife that Law gave to him. And it's also probably what allows him to do the birdcage. He's actually been fighting Law and Luffy and making string clones and repairing his internal organs from complete destruction, all the while having the birdcage over the entire country, slowly destroying and killing everybody. So what do you think about the awakening, and what do you think going forward we're going to have to look forward to? And, what theories or thoughts do you have about the awakening in general?
Well, I think when you mention how the Zoan type it sort of was referenced way back when, and also it was referenced in scope of a few other types of things, like you said, the ancient and a few others. So it seems like some potential future arc, maybe when Luffy is battling the Emperors of the Sea, he'll have to go past his awakening and into some sort of other next ratchet up of ability. And who knows what it was that Gold Roger actually was, hit, like enlightenment of some sort. And I'm not even sure if Roger was a Devil Fruit user. I don't know that has been clarified.
With respect to the awakening, well, a couple of really interesting things are open for discussion. The first thing is that if you remember when the crew was on the last island, they were on Punk Hazard, and the story that we were told about Punk Hazard was that Aokiji and Akainu had fought there for the position of Fleet Admiral during the time skip. And Akainu ultimately won, became Fleet Admiral, and Aokiji left. And they fought for a week straight, days and nights, without sleeping until Akainu finally prevailed. But the island was left in the state that it currently is, which is basically half of it is a volcano magma island, and half of it is a frozen ice Antarctica type island. And that has led a lot of people to theorize that Akainu and Aokiji both have awakened Logias, and this, in the way that DoFlamingo is able to turn his environment into strings to attack Luffy. But if you saw in this episode, as he was sort of stepping, strings would form under his feet, but then they would recede. It's been theorized that when Logias awaken their ability, they're actually able to permanently change the environment of an island that they are on forever henceforth, because they are actually that element. So in essence, Aokiji permanently turned half of the island into an ice continent, and Akainu permanently turned the other half into a lava world, and that's why Punk Hazard is that way. What do you think about that?
I think that makes a lot of sense. It seems like a valid theory, and I wonder if there's not some future ability for it not to be just restricted to Logia type, but also the Paramecia type.
I think the one final thing about Awakening that everyone is really interested about or curious about is we can assume that Luffy is going to get an Awakening because he's the main character, right? And Doflamingo says that Awakening is very rare, but it kind of doesn't make any sense that we would be introduced to this topic, and Doflamingo basically says that this is how you get to be, the most powerful Devil Fruit user, and our main character is a Devil Fruit user, and he doesn't get this ultimate power-up at some point. So we can assume that at some point Luffy's going to get his Awakening. And furthermore, we could take a leap and assume that his Awakening will probably be somewhat similar to Doflamingo's, since they're both Paramecia, and they both have changed their body composition, in the sense that Doflamingo is the Ito Ito no Mi, he's a string man, and Luffy has the Gamu Gamu no Mi, he's a rubber man. So it's pretty easy to assume that Luffy's Awakening is basically going to allow him to turn the world around him into rubber. And you can start to think of the ridiculous things that this is going to allow him to accomplish. We see him bouncing around on the street last episode. You could imagine his enemy sort of being unable to get their balance and sort of bouncing around. And also Luffy using a combination of his gear second or gear fourth speed combined with his own rubber and the rubber of the world around him, and in essence sort of creating a faux perfect elastic collision situation, like a supercharged version of Bellamy's spring hopper attack, where he can just sort of become a pinball bouncing around and picking up more and more speed as he just bounces off the world until he delivers an epic Kong gun or something to his opponent. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but I would hope that it goes the other way around, where he punches his enemy once and then turns everything near the enemy as the like in this episode, Doflamingo was attacked and he went flying through 25 buildings or something. Well, instead of flying through those buildings, Luffy could turn them into rubber and just have the enemy just ricochet nonstop until they're defeated.
So basically send them into an inability to stop their own momentum. They just get destroyed by bouncing around off the rubber walls that maybe he could imbue with armament hockey to deal them damage or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's pretty much it for this episode. So next week we're going to have episode 728. So what do you think is going to be happening in the next episode or couple episodes of this fight?
Well, I thought it was very interesting how they dropped Blackbeard's pirate, Jesus Burgess, in, and the, I forget her name, but Sabo's right-hand woman, Koala, is that her name?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to what unfolds there. I don't think it'll be in the next episode. I think the next episode is going to continue the battle between Doflamingo and Luffy, which probably won't even conclude then, but I think it's going to be epic.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we have for this episode. So I'd like to thank my guest again, Moomin HD, for taking the time to come on and talk about episode 727 with us. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 728, whatever happens there. And as always, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to this video so that you can get more awesome theories, discussions, and reviews for anime and manga episodes and chapters. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take it easy.